Hello there, Misty, and hello there everyone with the good sense to be watching Misty's videos. Now this is a little discussion I offered to do for Misty in relation to her Austen in August book celebration thing that she's hosting for the month of August, and just celebrating the wonder and awesome that is Jane Austen. And I said to Misty maybe 2 weeks ago, just an idea, but I've done some Austen plays and so have had the experience of portraying Austen characters in adaptations of her work, and I could maybe talk about that if you would like, and you could put it into your Austen in August celebration. Okay, so as some of you may or may not know, my name is Renee, hello, and I have a channel, Naomis2. I love to booktube and such, but I am also an actress. So professional work that I've done, some of it includes some Austen plays. Last year, for example, I was in Pride and Prejudice. I played Mary Bennet, obviously, and then this year, not so obviously, I played Marianne Dashwood in Sense and Sensibility, and then next year, I think we're going to be doing one a year. We're pretty sure it's going to be a production of Emma, and at the moment I'm pegged to play Miss Taylor. We'll see how that goes. But hey, if I'm Miss Taylor, I'm looking forward to that. That'd be nice. And I've come into doing those productions because a lady named Pamela Whelan lives in Newcastle, which is a city near me, and she is a very world-renowned Austen scholar. I think she's Vice President of the National Jane Austen Society. Yes, that exists. Australia has a Jane Austen Society, and we have all different branches in cities. Newcastle itself has recently founded its own little Jane Austen Society branch, and they do really fun things. They go to conventions, they house conventions, they do debates and discussions, they have little party things, they have themed nights. I know recently the Newcastle branch of the society had What Jane Austen Would Eat evening, where they essentially, everyone was given a designated dish or meal to make that would have been consumed in Jane Austen's time, and so they all got to bring it all together and have a big dinner party and taste test everyone's food and see if they made it correctly. I didn't attend that, but I heard all about it and everyone sounded very excited, and it's all very adorable and cute and sweet, but also like scholastically worthwhile as well. And so there's a lot of very notable, very worthwhile discussion that goes on. I've also gone to a few of the conferences that have taken place in Sydney for the Sydney branch, and we've performed there. So excerpts from plays that Pamela, because I should say Pamela also adapts Jane Austen's work into plays. That's been her focus, in adapting the written word for drama, because her love is Austen, but also theatre. She's a theatre critic. So yeah, she's quite well known within the Austen circle. And just because I got to know her through other theatre that I'd done, so she asked me to start taking part in the Austen productions that they're doing. And so the first one that I was asked to do was Mary Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, which was no shock to me at all. And of course, for most people, she's not a very well-loved character. Most people just like to laugh at her or roll their eyes at the mere mention of her name. And for me, I've always had a very, very personal association and empathy with Mary Bennet. If I'm going to claim to be like any character in Pride and Prejudice, it's Mary. And I don't feel ashamed about that. I think that, yes, I can see why she's not a very beloved character. I can see why she's a bit of comic relief, and I know what Jane Austen was intending to do with that character, but for me personally, I've always been able to very much associate with her and her placement within her family and within the society at that time, how hard it would have been for her to be the ugly sister who knew from the outset that because of how society works and how superficial everything was, it was going to be really tough for her in terms of acquiring a husband and then being financially settled for life. And I believe she's genuinely interested in academics and genuinely likes to learn and reads for the pleasure of reading, not simply acquiring knowledge to show off and share like a lot of people seem to assume she does. I might take a bias here because I could see so much of myself in her. I guess I'm more sympathetic towards her plight. I wanted to still encapsulate the notable, now sort of caricature elements that readers would, like people familiar with Austen, would associate with Mary. So she still had to be a bit pompous and standoffish and aloof and kind of condescending. and not all that nice all the time towards her sisters and things, but I was also trying to imbue her with a little bit of sympathy, so it was just for me the subtle things that I did that I could feel in those moments. I mean, a lot of interpretations and adaptations of Pride and Prejudice have hinted at Mary having feelings for Mr. Collins, for example, and so we took that and ran with that. I mean, it was never overtly mentioned or discussed, but I just interpreted in how I would look at him and behave around him if he was on stage at the same time as me, that sort of thing. And so you get a little bit, maybe hopefully engendering a bit of audience sympathy for Mary, because she's always being ignored, and her sisters very clearly do not like her, her parents very clearly do not like her, no one wants Mary, and so I was trying to hint at how lonely that would be. And then the role that I did this year was a huge step away from that. It was Marianne Dashwood in Sense and Sensibility, and again, this is a character who I was surprised actually to learn that she's not necessarily all that well liked. And I guess because I very much grew up on the adaptation 1995 Ang Lee film in which Kate Winslet was Marianne, and I loved her portrayal. I thought she was wonderful, and so I guess I always assumed that everybody loved, well, if not Marianne as a character, they loved Kate Winslet's performance. So to learn from a lot of my fellow cast members, who are mostly all Austen fans, that they don't like Marianne very much. She's a spoiled, selfish, melodramatic little brat, and I thought, okay, well, I can still do that. So I kind of took just the notion that she was a teenager and tried to just cite that as the reason for a lot of her behaviour and the way in which she conducts herself and expresses herself. And to me that was quite solid reasoning, really, and I think it doesn't excuse how she is a lot of the time, but it makes it more credible for me, even though I know this was an era in which adolescence wasn't a recognised state of being, but I still think it informs how you would behave. Unlike when I played Mary Bennet, there was a big stepping stone for me to get over in playing Marianne, because with Mary, I thought physically I'm right to play that. I've never been considered attractive, and so to step into Mary Bennet's shoes, I thought, yeah, that makes total sense, and the audience can buy that right away. When I was asked to play Marianne, for me it was a big mental leap to take, because my associations with Marianne aesthetically is beauty and prettiness and very girly and feminine and lovely, and that's not how I see myself, and I know for a fact that's not how most other people see me either. And I thought, well, that's going to be a big leap of faith for the audience to take. I guess it was more so just I had to not let that block how I wanted to portray the character, and just tell myself I am a young girl and I'm vibrant and exuberant and I'm all the things that I personally as a human being am not, but I'll step into these shoes and just embrace it and go for gold. It was a larger step for me to take to go into Marianne territory, so people were saying that I did a good job in that, and that was really nice. I got some really lovely compliments from that performance, and it was actually a lot of fun to do. Even when she's being really selfish and really bratty, it was quite a joy, and I did have a lot of fun. I should note how the plays are adapted. A lot of the time, especially because we've grown up with so many cinematic interpretations of Austen, you tend to have a very, at least I myself as a fan of Austen's work, I have a very set notion of how effective you can be in what you let cross over into that adaptation, and what you include, what you make sure not to cut out, how you transfer a lot of written material into something visual. And I've had to learn with some difficulty that unfortunately theatre can't meld a lot of aspects as seamlessly and as fluidly as film as a medium can. So there is a lot more telling, I think, in these adaptations that I've been involved in than I probably would have liked. Because Pamela essentially adapts these plays to be for an amateur theatre company, so you don't have the money or the means with which to have a lot of set changes, a lot of costume changes, a very large cast, not necessarily very big theatre, so that also limits what you can show on stage. So a lot of the action, for example, if it's going to take place outside, just in Sense and Sensibility, you don't see Marianne fall over and hurt her ankle and get rescued by Willoughby. You don't see that. It's just told as, like, after the fact. And even though it broke my heart not to get to do that dramatic scene, it was understandable. There were also in Pride and Prejudice something that I still mourn the loss of. The first two meetings between Elizabeth and Darcy weren't included. When I was worried that a lot of audience members, especially those who are fans, would maybe be a bit miffed by that, but again, that just came in dialogue mentioned like later on. And essentially as actors, at the end of the day, our job is no matter what content is kept, we have to make it as entertaining and effective as we can while we're up on that stage. And so that's the challenge that you're presented with. Ultimately, of course, books are such a personal thing, and so your own interpretation is always going to be playing in your mind. So you'll never be able to meet the expectations of everybody, and it's good to have a first-hand experience of how that feels, because so often we as book reviewers will come back and criticise film adaptations we've seen about a book series or books that we've loved, and so to have had these experiences and be given this perspective on the other side of things has been quite rewarding. It's been really enjoyable to do. I've had a lot of fun. I really love getting to delve into the Austen dialogue and do the different voices and all the little tiny matters of etiquette that you get to do, all the bowing and curtsying and all that kind of thing. So it's been a lot of fun. The costumes are great to wear, and it's great to feel you're just getting involved in something as beloved and widely known as Jane Austen. No matter what size an audience you're playing to, you just have to engage in it and do the best you can and have fun. And thankfully we've had some fantastic casts to work with thus far, and I love them all, and it's such a great sense of community backstage, and we're all going nuts. And I'm really excited. I hope that I get to do Emma next year, and I'll be sure to let you know how that goes. So that's all for now, and spread the Austen love around to everybody and have a happy Austen August.